Oh boy, I feel like I've been absentee away and away too long from this side of things, but I'm back. And it's a bit of a short week. And as usual, I feel like I'm under the gun because I am. I've got a ShireCon game that is on Saturday. No, Friday. And I've been sitting on this adventure. If you've been following, I don't know if I've been working on it really since I launched the behind the scenes screens channel, or it's on the main channel. This adventure called, what am I calling it? Whispers from the Wastes. Calling it. And, well, I had decided a long time ago this was going to be kind of this season's adventure, this con season, if you will. I've been running my escape adventure, which I like a lot and I think is popular. No, successful. I don't know what the word is. I think it's been doing well for what I've been trying to do. It's been successful. Maybe that's the way. It's been successful. And I notice I'm getting some buffering potential issues. So apologies for that. If I'm getting some audio-visual hiccups. It's been good. It's been good running escape, but I want to run. So I don't want to just be kind of the one adventure pony. And as I'm developing new things, I want to be running new things. So this was why I decided a long time ago to run. And so when I was submitting games for the upcoming kind of fall con season, I guess. So ShireCon is up first. There's also Arcane Con and ClareCon. I'm running this one. Well, I realized through some conversations with some people that I'm not talking specifically about this adventure, but just talking about kind of similar adventures, some potential issues, I guess. So this one, it's very much you're solving a mystery. It is a investigative, not so much a mystery. It's kind of an investigation, but I mean, this will be the first time I'm running it, so I don't know clues and all that, how it will work. That's part of what we're all going to find out. But it was kind of, I guess I was realizing it was sort of a singular thing. So you go to a couple investigations, you kind of search, you get some clues together. Those clues kind of take you, put everything together. It says, aha, go to, so basically there's essentially 3 locations, right? You go to location A, you search, and you can go to education. You go to location B and maybe investigate is the right word. So you have 2 sites you can investigate. It doesn't matter which order you investigate them. And most likely, if you investigate A, it will give you information that will, I think, lead you to B. And if you go to B, some stuff that might lead you to A. And then ultimately they lead you to C, which there's a little dungeon and kind of that's the way it goes. But I've been thinking that I don't know that that's strong enough structure. And I'm wondering, do I need a little bit? What can I do to make it a little bit kind of more? Is there somebody I mentioned had a good conversation talking about these kind of investigation type adventures that you want to have kind of things sort of pushing the adventure forward. And I realize that this does not have something pushing it forward. I mean, there's just the mystery. And then maybe that's fine. There's just hey, we got to figure out this thing, figure it out. But I don't know one, I think for con play, I'm wondering if isn't even enough. These things could go by pretty quickly. The dungeon, I'm not sure about, right? The dungeon is maybe the X factor in terms of how long it will take to get through, but it's a pretty linear thing. There's not that much going on in the dungeon. It's kind of there. It's really more about the investigation elements and piecing things together. So I was thinking, I don't know if it's strong enough, but these are not even new thoughts. I've been thinking this for a while. Like I think I gotta add something to it, give it something more going on. I was thinking about some of the adventures I've played in at some of the cons, which I thought did a good job of this with this idea. And part of it thinks like, well, they just kind of had the simpler. They didn't have all these. You go and there are always thoughts in your mind, right? You have no idea. Like this is the thing when you're doing an open table game or say a con table game, you don't know who's going to be playing. You only have the vaguest notions. You hope probably that somebody, if it's a situation like at some of these cons, not at all cons, right? But some of the cons, maybe all of them, when you're choosing, if you're going to go play the game, you're going to choose the game to play, you get to kind of read a little blurb of what the game's about. And then you say, oh, is that for me? Is that not for me? Whatever, right? Oh, I like this system and I like this kind of game, or I don't. So you kind of hope that people read the blurb and say, oh, yeah, I want to do, in my case, kind of investigation kind of thing. That seems interesting. So I'm going to do that. So that's kind of, that's hopefully you'll find people who are targeted that way. An open table kind of thing can be even, you might not even have that because someone just might walk in and say, hey, is there an opening in a game? And then whatever is playing there, you just drop in and play, whether that's really your thing or not. But ultimately, it's a kind of a crap shoot, right? So when I was thinking about some of the games, investigation kind of games I've played in before, and my experience with those that were all positive, I've also been tempering that with, okay, but I think in those cases, everybody who was sitting down to play those games was really on board for playing those types of adventures rather than just, in a game to be in it. If that makes sense. So I'm trying to figure out kind of what to do with that. And I've been thinking about, so the original mystery was that kicked off the inception, the inciting incident that an acolyte from, so there's basically a few villages, kind of villages really, and then there's a sort of an abbey, basically, and someone got there was a rogue acolyte. The rogue acolyte went and kidnapped a kid, ran away. So now we're trying to find the kid. And so you follow the clues. You can start at the abbey, which would be one of the locations. And if you want to question people about the person there, or if you want to go to the last known location, which was this other village, you can go there. And like I said, you go to the village, you can find out a couple things, but you're probably going to need to go to the abbey, right? So the victims from the one thing and the village, and the perpetrators, supposed perpetrators from the abbey, and so you're going to end up going to go to both those places, and you do your little talkity talk, searchity search, whatever, and you come up with some things that hopefully lead you on to see where everything's coming in. And like I said, not that I dislike it, and originally this was going to be kind of a pamphlet adventure, so I was trying to make it really small and tight, and then I kind of gave up on that because I just felt like, ultimately I don't want I go back and forth. I think it's fun to take on something and say, look at the limitations of the form and say, you know what, I'm going to make a pamphlet, this kind of work in a pamphlet because that's what I want to do. But ultimately, I think I was looking at it and I was thinking, I really want the adventure, and this wasn't for a contest or anything. It was just more of a self-imposed thing. I was thinking, like, why am I doing this pamphlet for this? When I think I could maybe do it. I think it could be more what I want it to be if I open it up more. So as much as it was interesting to do it as a pamphlet, I think maybe the scope of this and everything was not good for a pamphlet. Any case, but I've been looking at it saying, man, it's a bit thin. Maybe it's a bit thin, and I guess this is where I come back. If I was doing this as a pamphlet, I'd probably feel it wasn't thin because it's a pamphlet, right? The context of it being a pamphlet adventure, just kind of one, whatever fold kind of thing. One of those things that's like a 4, just one basically letter side, basically one letter side page that's been folded in such a way to make a pamphlet. Your limitations mean that, you're going to have to make kind of choices like that. Or as soon as you open up, you go, maybe not. And like I said, the pamphlet part wasn't my main motivation. It was more, I thought this was kind of a neat idea. And I decided to run at some cons. And since the initial audience for this is myself for running it, and then I will make it available. But, the primary thing is, say I'm going to run this at cons. Well, I need to make it something. If it needs to be out of the pamphlet to get the stuff that I want to have for me to run at a con, then that's what I need to do. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Okay, so that's kind of a long way around. Let me take a sip of Jamaica here for the working man. So all of that going around and around is I'm thinking about how to make it a little bit more. Now, one of the things I ran across, I was listening to podcast. It's called Astonishing Legends. I'm kind of mixed on their stuff. I like it. They have a great banter back and forth. Sometimes sometimes I guess if I'm listening to it a bunch, it kind of wears on me a little bit. Not, I don't know, that's not the right word. That's not what I mean. Their style of doing it, I think, sometimes works better than others, and sometimes I'm kind of in the mood for it. Sometimes I'm sort of not. And I think some subjects lend themselves better to that approach, I guess. In any case, they had a thing on the Pied Piper, and it was really interesting, and a lot of stuff I didn't know. But looking at that, listening to that story over and over again, it's like, oh, a Pied Piper. It's like, well, what if I energize? What if I can use the Pied Piper, a Pied Piper scenario, to be the kind of inciting incident, right? What if that can be the thing? So I'm just have some notes here. So if you notice, I'm in Publisher, Affinity Publisher, but I'm not trying to really publish, but I'm just thinking somewhere I can kind of stick some notes in. And I just thought I'll just put them in here. So I'm thinking of Pied Piper. Basically, we have this. So of our I guess the main antagonist, or the tool of the main antagonist. So I'll just put his main antagonist, because there's kind of a demon thing in here. Antagonist, but the demon thing's kind of more at the end. What did I call? Anyway, we'll see if this. I don't know what's going on with the bandwidth. Okay, so yeah, and then so there's, of course, kind of in the legendary stuff. So some say that there was one of the kids was blind, other was mute, who made it back. The blind one couldn't point out the place, and the mute one was able to point, but they didn't hear anything. And then another boy had gone with the others, but came back to fetch his jacket, and then couldn't catch up. A cave within a hill. This cave is still shown. So, but it is just interesting, right? I don't know if it's just, you just don't think about, well, how did these parents lose the kids, both of them? Now you imagine, I mean, people are busy, right? But if you've got a young kid, well, I guess they're not that young. They're 4 on, so they're probably the age of kids that were obviously could move around, because they have to be able to follow him. He's not carrying them around. So obviously no babies and no toddlers. And in fact, one of the kids, one of the kids left their jacket, I guess.